Good morning, Vietnam. Uh, how's it going? Are oh, I thought that was overalls for a second.
No, it's a like a top whatever,
Yeah, tank.
like a
Yeah.
tank. Yeah, it's a tank.
Do you own overalls?
Yeah, you've seen me wear them 1,000 times.
I thought so. That's why my brain initially thought, "Oh, is that overalls?"
I work in a plant, man. Like I wear work clothes, and overalls are very convenient. Um, they're very comfortable to me too. I love overalls. So most of the time at work, that's what I wear.
Yeah. When I my first day of kindergarten, there's a picture of my mom dropping me off at school for my first day of kindergarten, and I was wearing overalls, and I had long curly hair down to my ass. So you know, pretty Pretty sick. I don't think I've worn overalls since I was a little kid though. I don't know why. I got this employee that wears overalls and he rocks them, man. But he does the thing where he only has the one. He's got like the one buckle or strap or whatever, and then the other one's just undone. So it's just kind of like, letting a titty hang out. I don't know. Guess that's a fashionable thing.
Like 25 years ago.
Well, I like I said, I don't know shit about fashion, so I'm
Well,
not the person to ask.
I'm saying it's not in fashion.
No.
Is what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
what kind of does the guy does he is he like a 90s like style kid or
Jackson is he's interesting, man. He's an enigma. That's what I'd call him. He kind of looks like Matthew McConaughey. Uh, he smokes a lot of pot, so he's like
just
he
give
would
the
say,
guy's life
"Man,
story away. Jesus, you already said his name. You said he smokes
I,
pot.
I didn't
Jesus.
I didn't say where he lives. Didn't give his birthday,
God,
his
Nick.
age, his last name.
I mean,
Jackson wouldn't
fuck.
care.
Fuck, man.
Jackson may be listening. What's up? Shout out, Jackson. Shout out. No, Jackson doesn't even care, bro. He's like I said. He's like a I don't know. He just has this like blase fair, whatever the fuck, like just personality. He's just like, what's up? What's up? I don't know. He's cool. All right. Well, yeah, we're off to a rip roaring start there. Um, so what's been going on in the world? Not in the world. That's a bad question. In your world.
Can't even tell you. Just busy, dude. I got movies and stacks of shit I gotta get through. I'm fixing my deck at the house right now. Our friends opened up a tattoo shop. We got to go over there tomorrow and help them with some stuff. Um, just I don't even know. Like I got so much shit to do. I can't even think of it right now. Other than that, we got the fourth dog a few weeks ago, and Rodney's been good. He's a good dog, but that's it. I don't care. I don't care if Jesus Christ shows up on my doorstep. Like I'm not opening the door for nobody else. I can't have any more dogs. So that um
How'd that assimilation like? How'd that work? Were they all cool with it or?
it took half a night once the excitement, like they attacked him. They mauled him when we brought him in the house, but now he's best friends with everybody. Luckily, like Boston Terriers are such like well tempered animals. Chevy literally is the nicest dog. Iggy, he's half lab and half basset hound, which I guess is a good combination. So he looks like a lab, but he's short to the ground. He's got short feet. But Iggy's such a good dog. He listens. He behaves so well, but he's strong and he's got a lot of energy. So if you're sitting on the couch and he jumps up by you, he'll just maul you. You have to physically grab him and get him off of you. Owen doesn't really like anybody, so he kind of just stays by himself. And Rodney he loves his mom, so he stays with Sydney all day. So luckily, the breeds of dogs we have, they assimilate very very well. They all get along very well. But when it's feeding time, it's like fucking Animal House. They go crazy when we got to feed them. We got to separate them. We take one of them outside to feed them. So I love them. We got big hearts to take the dogs in, but we told each other no more, absolutely no more dogs.
Yeah, this is twice now that I've gotten a text from you at a random time, and you've been like, another dog showed up.
Hmm.
Like another felt like I don't know what to do. I don't need another dog. I'm not keeping this dog. And then both times you kept the dog. So
Rodney was interesting. The vet that we go to told Sydney, like, hey, this family, they've got some issues, and they came to us and said, please find a family. We're not looking to sell him. We truly can't afford to take care of the dog. We don't have the time. They got some stuff going on to where they were just like, we can't give the dog any sort of attention or care. So if you can find a family, please do. So they immediately called us and said, hey, we know you guys are pug people. And they sent Sydney a picture of the pug, and it was over. There wasn't even a shot. When we saw the picture of the dog, Sydney was like, okay, we're going to get him. But luckily, he's incredible. So we lucked out, but it's Brady Bunch. We're done. Just totally done. Rob Zombie
we,
he's got a black pug. He's got an old black pug.
yeah, yeah. No, it's I don't have. My ex-wife wanted a pug, and we were gonna get one, but we didn't end up getting it. I mean, Carl, I don't know, man. Carl is he's a lot on his own. He's just super high energy. Like it's insane. And he looks like a lab because he's a beagle and a lab mix, but he's short like a beagle. So but that motherfucker has hops, dude. He can jump like up the door. I mean, he's got hops.
Mm.
I Interesting story to tell you. The other day, I was pretty sure I had raccoons in my attic. Like I was pretty sure. Um, and now I'm 100% sure. And someone's coming out tomorrow to remove them, thankfully. But there's the way that the back of my house goes. There's like an extension. It's like almost like a shed, but it's connected to the house. But the only way to get into it is just like it's like a shed door outside. And I guess the other day William let Carl out, and then William went out in the backyard with him, and I was in the kitchen, and I just heard like blood curdling animal screams. And I like freaked out and ran out there and I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And William's just standing there. I'm like, where's Carl? He's like, he's in there. I was like, why? And he was like, oh, well, there was a raccoon and it was like walking up on the roof and like went down in there. I was like, so you opened the door and let Carl in there? He was like, yeah. I was like, dude, what? So I'm like screaming for Carl to come out of that shed, and he came out, and this dog walks out of there, blood dripping from his mouth, just licking his lips. Not a mark on him, not a mark on him, but I think he massacred a raccoon in there, and he's just licking all the blood off his face. And I was mad at first because I was like, dude, William, like those things could have rabies. Like if there's multiple of them, they could have killed Carl. Like he could have been seriously hurt. Like you can't do that. Um, but I haven't. Long story short, I have not gone in the shed yet to see if there's a dead raccoon in there because if there's an injured one in there that's alive or multiple of them, I ain't opening that and letting those fuckers out. I'm not doing it because I don't want to get
Jeez.
attacked. So I'm just waiting until they get out here tomorrow, animal control, to assess the situation and get them out because yeah, Carl didn't play. I never got him fixed. I don't know if your dogs are fixed or not. I never got Carl fixed. So he's very territorial.
Jeez. Is he showing any signs of anything?
Oh no, no. And he got a rabies vaccination when he was a puppy. I think. I can't remember I know he got at least one, but like no, and he didn't have a mark on him. So like I mean, he that poor raccoon got I don't know. It got the worst of it. I can tell you that because Carl, like I said, he no mark on him, but he had a nice snack. So yeah,
Jeez. Do you have to pay for that, or do you rent, or because
I
how
rent,
much is?
so no, I don't have to pay for it.
I wonder how much that stuff costs.
Well, this happened last summer too. Baby raccoons in my attic. There was three of them, and they came out here and they got them, and they were like in one of the totes that I had like Halloween decorations in, and the guy was like, technically I'm not allowed to like forcibly remove them out of the tote that they're in, so I'm going to
Right.
take the tote out of the yard and like leave it there, and they should get out and run and do their own thing, and they did. But so this is the second time it's happened. Um, it sucks to be them, especially with the weather here. You know, this past week it is hot as hell. So tomorrow there's going to be a dude up in my attic. It's well over 100 degrees up there. It's got to be. So I mean, he's going to be miserable. But
Jeez.
I'm sure those people get paid pretty damn good money to do that. So,
Oh yeah, that's a shitty job. I wouldn't want to be fucking with raccoons. Imagine being in Florida. Well, it's funny because they call the cops in Florida, like if they have alligators in the backyards and like swimming pools. Like you see cops come, they have to be trained to deal with that shit. And they got those rods with like the neck thing where they got to get it around the gator's neck and pull it to cinch it tight. God,
yeah. Yeah,
I've been on
Florida's it's a madhouse.
I've been on this kick on TikTok. Like there's these channels I watch of these like guys that just like they have little boats. They go through the Everglades and they have GoPros and they film. And one of them like takes the GoPro and puts it under his boat. And you can like he'll be driving through the Everglades and under the water with the GoPro, you fucking see these gators just laying down at the bottom of the water and these big massive garfish. And that dude, just terrifying. I found out that I have a phobia and there's a name for it. It's thalassa. I have two phobias. And if I mispronounce these, anybody that knows the name of these properly, I apologize. I think one of them's called thalassophobia and the other one's called submechanophobia. I have two phobias. Those are two of my phobias. Um, Thalassophobia is the fear of the massive depth of the ocean. Like I have this reoccurring nightmare. And I think I've said this, but like I wake up, like my eyes open up and I fall into the ocean in the middle of it where like, I mean, there's nothing around me. And I literally have this phobia or this dream where I'm in the water and like I put my head in the water and I just see the pit of nothing. And it's a reoccurring dream. I've been trying to find out if it means anything. I don't know if there's any symbolism to it, but I have a phobia of that. Like I don't go in the ocean. I'll never go on a cruise. I can't stand the ocean. My other fear, submechanophobia, is the fear of large objects underwater, mostly contraptions or boats or submarines. Like
So
seeing,
something that has sunk or sunk, yeah.
yeah, like seeing stuff underwater, particularly stuff that should not be there. I'm both fascinated and horrified by it. So yeah, stuff like that is like my biggest. I get chills looking at videos of stuff. Titanic, not so much. I get sad seeing that, but like other stuff is just morbidly horrifying to me. Or seeing like mechanics of stuff at like theme parks. Like if like knowing that there's like for Jaws, knowing the mechanics of the ride under there. If you were to fall in out of the
Oh
boat for some reason and
no.
when your
No.
feet touch like the track or your feet hit something like something about that mortifies me. So yeah, there's actual names for my phobias. I didn't realize that. And interestingly enough, there's a community of people that are into it even though they're scared of it. Like there's a community online on TikTok that I found that like I follow these channels and I watch these videos and it's fascinating to me. It's weird that I'm fascinated by my own phobias. As long as I'm not there in the midst of it, it's one thing. But yeah, that shit scares me, dude. The ocean's my biggest fear. I think I'd rather be in space than the ocean. I'd rather take the gun to the head, honestly. But if I had to be in space or the ocean, I think I'd rather be in space than in the bottom of the ocean. I think. But I'd
Yeah.
take the gun to the head if I had to.
Yeah, I mean, when you specifically mentioned the Jaws ride, I don't have that same fear. I understand. I get what you're explaining though, but I don't have that. But specifically with the Jaws ride though, when I rode it when I was young, I was terrified but I was terrified because I was like that one of the sharks in there, one of the the Bruce that they had was one of the ones from one of the movies. I don't know if it was the Revenge or what it was, but it was a screen used one, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but I'm pretty sure it was. And
If it was in Florida, that's supposed to be Bruce from The Revenge.
okay, so and that's what I thought. They had said something about that when we got on the ride. But I remember just thinking to myself, this is like a boat. Like, yeah, it's on a track, but it's a boat. It's kind of open. So like if I fell in the water, I would have been terrified with that thing in the water because it's not a real shark, but like it didn't matter to me. It was almost like my brain couldn't like still wouldn't I would freak out because I'm like, that's Bruce, bro. Like that was in Jaws. That is the shark from Jaws, and I'm in the water with the shark from Jaws, even though it's on a track. Like I don't, it would have just freaked me out. So I that was really creepy to me. I didn't like that. I my phobias are different though. Mine are like they don't fascinate me. I can't really think too hard on my phobias. Because it really it'll mess with me. Like arachnophobia. I can't look at like ugly ass spiders. I can't do it. I know you watch the same guy. I know we both follow him on Instagram. The guy fishing Garrett that goes barefoot in the fucking Everglades and shit and looking for that 20-foot Burmese python. Funny as hell. He's always yoinking all these animals, and I'll be watching a video and I'll be like, oh wow, look at that gator, look at this, and then bam, oh, this is a bird-eating tarantula, and I'm like, motherfucker, and I have to like put my phone down because like I can't look at it. Like it's like it's looking at me. I don't know.
I'd much rather deal with spiders than snakes. To me, spiders are
Yeah,
almost works of art. They're so intricately designed and they're so symmetrical. I wouldn't say I'd have one as a pet, but I'd much rather deal with spiders than snakes. Snakes to me are literal animals of the devil. The most horrifying looking creatures I've ever seen. Truly horrifying. To me, the only good snake is a
you
dead
guys have
snake.
them down there, right?
Of course. Yeah, we
Yeah.
got rattlesnakes galore. I have to put pellets out in my yard pretty much once a month from spring to the beginning of fall just to keep them out because they make holes. They
Yep.
dig holes in the yard. And well actually little I forget what kind of creatures, some kind of little animals try to dig holes. But when I first moved in my house, it's funny. It was a hole in the yard where I saw like a squirrel go down into it or something. And I was bringing something in the house from the backyard because I have a sliding door, so the door is wider, so we could get something in. The day I was moving in my house, in the backyard, I saw it was either a big rat snake or something. I saw a squirrel go in this hole, and then under my shed, a big rat snake came out and went down in that hole. And I told my dad, and we instantly blocked the hole. So whoever won that fight didn't matter. They were stuck down there. But yeah, we get snakes bad. Because behind my house is this church that owns all this property. So behind my backyard is Blair Witch Project. And when I about a month or about a year after I moved into my house, we had city plumbing issues behind the house. And so my stupid ass city, which is where they do my electrical, I'm in town. So a lot of people around here, they have uh third party companies that do their electricity, or they have septic tanks, so like all their water and stuff is condensed, but I'm in town, so all my stuff goes to a city pipe that drains blah blah blah. The city pipe burst behind my house, but the jackasses gave me a notice saying you need to fix your water plumbing or we're going to shut you off in 3 days. So I had to hire a plumber to come out and say, no, this isn't on you. The jackass city people, their pipe is from the 1950s. It's corroded. So long story short, they had to come out and fix everything. But when I went in the backyard with my plumber, we went behind my fence and he stopped me. It was funny because there's a guy I went to high school with. His dad was the plumber I hired. He goes, "Hold on, don't come over the fence yet." I was like, "Why?" He goes, "Look down, fucking gigantic rattlesnake, right on the." So he was like, "We got to clear all this, blah blah blah." It's bad. It's bad. But I have to. Yeah, I go to Lowe's and I get bags of this snake repellent, like pebble stuff. Cover the yard in it. Just cover it because it's a
The
fucking
dogs don't
jungle.
mess with it, do they?
Oh hell no. We get it's funny because we get a lot of turtles too, just little turtles, and we have like a family of turtles that lives under my shed, but the dogs don't mess with the turtles. Um, but no, the snakes, man, that's another phobia. I hate snakes. Like
Yeah.
it's funny. Me and City were watching Fear Factor the other. We've been watching like shows and stuff. She's been having me watch Survivor, And I like Survivor Star's Red, but we were watching Fear Factor. And there was this one episode where City was telling me, he goes, Christian, I know you love Penn and Teller. I don't know if you know who they are. It's a Las Vegas guys. They're a magic duo, but they're also kind of comedy. They're from the 80s and 90s. They were huge in the 80s and 90s. Penn and Teller's great, but they were on an episode, and Penn had to go in one of the objects was, or one of the games was, it was a pit of water, like this big tank, and there were hockey pucks at the bottom of the tank. You had to go down there and grab as many hockey pucks with a yellow top on them. Some of them were just regular black hockey pucks, but they were like spread throughout ones with yellow tops. The goal was to go down and get as many yellow top hockey pucks and throw them in the bucket as much. But the fear part of it was the whole tank was filled with snakes. And there was a bunch of small snakes, a bunch of water snakes, and one giant ass yellow, I don't know if it's a python or not, but one of the, those yellow ones, they're actually gorgeous. Like if I had to touch one, it'd be the yellow one. And they had to literally come up out the water with snakes just all over them, putting these hockey pucks in the bucket. And I was telling Sydney, I would literally, if I had to do that, if it was like, you either do this or die, I'm telling you, I would kill myself. I would, before I died, I would just tell my wife or whoever, I was like, I'm out of this motherfucker. I ain't doing it. That's how much I fear snakes. Hate them.
Yeah, you sound like my mom. She's the same way with snakes. I'm indifferent on them. They don't creep me out, but I obviously don't want to be near a fucking rattlesnake. But when my mom was in high school, everybody knew that she was terrified of snakes, and I think it was her sophomore year. She's told the story to us a bunch of times. A guy came in with a snake skin and threw it over my mom's shoulders while she was just walking in the hallway, and she said she like screamed and started crying because she thought it was like an alive snake, but it was just a snake skin. But yeah, somebody bullied her with that when she was in high school. She's fucking terrified.
Oh,
But she lives in Florida, dude. That's the Wild West. I mean, it's the South, but it's basically the Wild West out there. You got panthers, gators, snakes. I mean, you name it. Everything is down
I don't
there.
think I could do it. I really don't
No.
think I could do it. In high school, we did like a senior trip. Me and like 4 or 5 of my friends and my brother. We had a cabin in Destin, and it was this campground area we stayed in, where like people had campers and fifth wheelers, but there was a section of cabins, so we rented one of those. And one night we had like pizza and shit, and like, we were in high school, so we were eating like really bad. All we had was pizza, cosmic brownies, yo-yos, zingers, all that shit in the house, in the cabin. And we thought it would be funny to take a pizza box that had like 4 or 5 slices left. We took the pizza box, opened up some zingers and some snack cakes, and let's just set it right outside of our door overnight just to see what happens. I wonder if anything will come out. Dude, we came out, the box was destroyed, and there was a gator, like literally you could tell it was a giant gator bite right out of the pizza box. I wish it was later now, because now we have so much technology that we could set up a camera or something to have been able to record it.
Can you
But it,
imagine that? Just watching that footage and seeing a fat ass gator just come up
yeah,
and
that's
eat
what
the
I'm
pizza.
saying, dude. Yeah. And then we were kind of paranoid to like walk out of the cabin, because like, what if it's under? Because the cabins were like on cinder block stuff, and they had like the mesh, like, but something could get under there. We're like, what if the motherfucker's under there? So, yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't live. It's funny because me and Cindy were talking about this maybe yesterday, day before. We like where we live, but I don't think I want to live in, like, it's a pipe dream. But let's say one day I'm in a position to where, I'm able to sustain a living with YouTube. Maybe one day, maybe 7, 8, 10 years. But if that's possible and I could live where I wanted, I was telling Sydney, I think I'd want to live somewhere like, I don't know, like, I'd have to get used to the winters in like the New England area or somewhere up in that area. But Sydney was showing me pictures of Salem, Massachusetts, like the town during Halloween. And like, dude, it looks like a Tim Burton movie. I mean, it's like, it's huge. and they do parades, and I think there's a Halloween festival in Minnesota, like a pumpkin festival thing that they do. And Sydney was showing me this video of it. It is like it's insane the way they celebrate different holidays in different parts of the world. It's incredible. I want to just at least experience that. It's like I was telling Sydney, it's like we need to visit Salem during Halloween one year just to see what that's like. That's the only thing. If I moved, I'd have to adjust to the winters because I like heat. I like to sweat. I like when I'm jogging and it's hot and I feel like I'm burning. I feel like I'm doing something. Like I'm used to heat. Winters, I'd have to get used to, and driving in the snow and all that because it's a rare. It happens down here, but it's few and far between. And when it does, if it even ices a little bit, town shuts down. Just shuts down. Nobody leaves the house. It's like COVID for a few days. Nobody does shit. So totally different culture when it comes to cold weather down here.
I mean, we have winters, but Massachusetts, that is like winter. Like
Right.
they get hammered.
Negative. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I was thinking about that the other day. Actually, I was thinking to myself because I'm like, I don't want to be in Ohio forever. I've never really liked Ohio, and having visited Southern California for a second time, I was like, man, I really like Southern California. And no, I'm not talking about Los Angeles, y'all. San Diego is really nice. It's just there's something about it. It's perfect to me. It's 80, 85 and sunny every day. And then at night it's 50, 55. You can wear a hoodie, you can sit outside, have a bonfire. It's a dry heat. There's almost no humidity. Um, but the difference is I don't have to deal with certain things that I would have to deal with out there. Rattlesnakes, they got them out there. Um, and earthquakes. When we were there, there was two, but they didn't register enough for us to feel them. But like that would be a thing you would constantly have to worry about. And when you live in California, and I can speak to my mom living in Florida, if you live in California, you have to have earthquake insurance, which is not cheap. If you live in Florida, you have to have hurricane insurance. If you own land, you have to have hurricane insurance, and that ain't cheap either. Um, Now, luckily, like when a hurricane a couple years ago, I don't know if it was Ida or Irma, whichever one it was, it totaled my mom's truck, knocked it like a tree fell over in her front yard, totaled her truck. But because of her hurricane insurance, it was covered. Difference was though, the problem is though, she pays an arm and a leg for that shit every year, and she complains about it all the time. She's like, the hurricane insurance is so expensive, and it's just kind of like California, Florida, like those two, they're on opposite sides. Obviously, well, kind of like you have the southeast and then the southwest, and like they move to those states a lot. That people want to live in those states because of their climates and whatnot, and there's just so much to see out there. But the downside is in both states, it's really expensive to live there. Both states are top 10 in the country and most expensive places to live. I guess just and a lot of that's the insurance. Oh, am I going to worry? Am I going to have to worry about my house crumbling and falling because of an earthquake or a fucking tsunami? Either one. You got to worry about it. So I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that. Well, I know you guys. You guys don't really get hit by the hurricanes a lot, do you? They don't normally make it that. Like Katrina was an exception, not the rule, right? For Louisiana, at least. Because normally when they come in from the Gulf, they're mainly landing like at the peninsula in Florida, and then as they move further inland, they start to weaken. So you might get bad storms as a cause of it, but
So it is the Katrina was exception isn't really the word I would use. I would have called it the worst case scenario because when I was living in New Orleans every year, and this is why my neighbors died. This is why my other neighbors, like so many of my people that I knew died because they didn't leave. Pretty much since I could remember being conscious as a kid, about a week in August or September, we evacuated and left and went and stayed at a hotel or whatever for a week. And it became so routine because of a storm coming. up and either going a little bit to the left of us, a little bit to the right of us, or dissipating enough to where it's a category 2 or maybe a 3 to where it's going to be bad and there'll be trees, limbs that may be down in the street, but never to where our house was destroyed or the levees broke. So it became so routine for us that by the time Katrina happened, people weren't afraid because we had escaped. What it really was, Nick, is we had escaped fate for so long since the 60s. I forget the storm that happened in the 60s. My grandma could tell you the name of it. But in that storm in the 60s, they had about 4 or 5 feet of water in New Orleans. Um, but yeah, we got lucky. So I wouldn't really call it the exception. It was truly just luck because where I lived literally was the bottom of the boot of the state. I mean, the only thing more south than where I lived was the ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. That's where Miro is. So we just lucked out. So by the time Katrina happened and we were evacuating, we always did it because my parents were like, we will never take a chance of being in our house if a storm happens. So by the time Katrina happened, most people were just like, fuck it. You know, this happens every year. It always dissipates or it moves or it weakens. But this was just, no pun intended, the perfect storm. So that's really what it was. We just got lucky for a number of years. So people died because they just didn't leave. It got so used to it happening all the time. Have you ever gone on YouTube and just typed in Katrina home video footage of people in their house?
I've watched so many things on Katrina. Yeah, yeah.
I get secondhand anxiety watching this. There's this one guy that's in his attic and the roof is blown off and he's got his camera filming out of the roof of his house while he's in his attic, and everything's gone. Literally, it's just 15 feet of water. And God, it gives me. I can't imagine if we would have stayed, what that would have been like. I can't imagine. I think I might have told you this, but my dad had a friend who was a cop, and so my dad was able to get into our subdivision. They blocked off Miro. I mean, you couldn't just come in. Like the government blocked it off. It was blocked off. It was like a crime scene. It was so bad. And it was a health and safety hazard. But my dad had a friend who was a cop. And so my dad went down to Mandeville, which is above Lake Pontchartrain, which like Mandeville, Slidell is like above Lake Pontchartrain. Below it was New Orleans, Miro, Chalmette, which is where I lived. So he met with this guy in Mandeville, his cop buddy. They got into Miro before anybody could. This was probably like at best 7 days after Katrina was done and the water started going away. My dad went into our house. When he came back, Nick, he was white as a ghost. My dad wouldn't talk for a couple days. And my dad was like Superman. Like I'd never seen him cry, nothing. Finally, like 2 or 3 days later, I'm like, Dad, are you okay? He was just like, yeah, I'm fine. I was like, well, what was the house like? He's like, it's not that great. You know, we can't really say much, but he's like white. And he would wake up for like, he would wake up in the middle of the night. And then finally, like years later, like I had lived in this house already. So this was like a few years ago. I finally talked to him about this. It's like, Dad, do you remember blah, 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 when you went down in this and like you were like real quiet? He was like, yeah. I was like, can you tell me like what? He goes, Christian, I saw things I'll never in my life forget. I was like, what? He goes, put 2 and 2 together, son. I got into the subdivision before people were able to get in. I was like, what do you say? He goes, I saw human beings. Put it to you like that. And he never told me this, but I have a feeling my dad saw a dead person in our house that was just in the house. So yeah, I think my dad's scarred for life from that shit. Because people, you gotta imagine bodies were floating in the subdivision.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it was bad. So
Well,
I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever recover from that. I never talked to him about it. I never bring it up. But yeah, it bothered him for a long time. Long time.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff on Katrina because I've always been fascinated with storms. Like I don't know. There's it's terrifying, but there's also beauty in mother nature in that way. Like the fact that such powerful storms can be created like it fascinates me. I've always loved tornadoes and tsunamis and stuff like that because it's just like that's just a natural occurrence that is created by like environmental factors, and these things happen. And like that's why I've always loved disaster movies. Like I love disaster movies because like all that shit is possible. Like that's real. Like the earth can do that, which is just so wild to me. But the downside of it is in being fascinated with those storms and stuff and watching, documentaries on Katrina or the Joplin F5 tornado from like 2013. It's fascinating as some of that footage is, whether it's the winds, the tornado itself, the water levels, the waves, the actual like tsunami, like it's the other shit you see that isn't fascinating. The death and the destruction, and it's just wild. I mean, it's wild because it's like we have no control over that. Like none. Like there's nothing we can do about that. We could the government, the the military, no matter what, some things just they can't be stopped, and that's just crazy. And it's like I was thinking about it specifically with tornadoes. Like, man, I saw a video on Instagram a couple weeks ago. No, it was on Twitter a couple weeks ago, and it was in Texas. They had a really bad stretch of tornadoes. It was a supercell event, is what they call them, I think, where you've got over a span of a day or two, just tons of tornadoes touch down. Little ones a lot of the time that don't create damage, but there was one that was like an F3, I think, and it was a video of a cop's dash cam sitting in this parking lot, and you just saw the tornado come through, and it was a big ass factory. It
Yeah.
leveled the factory to the ground, all of it,
Jesus.
destroyed the entire factory. And it's crazy because it happens in like 10 seconds. Here comes a tornado. There's this big ass building. Tornado moves out of the way. Gone. Leveled. Just gone. And it takes communities years to recover from that financially. I mean, it's that stuff is just insane. I've always thought that's what I'm excited for Twisters, man. I really am. I'm excited for that movie. I think that movie's actually going to be a pretty big hit because I don't know, those kind of movies that I just feel like they're timeless because I feel like it plays on a fear that we all have. It's
Is
human.
Helen Hunt going to be in it?
They haven't said. They haven't said. I mean, they have not confirmed or denied. If I had to guess, do I think she'll probably have a cameo? I don't. I don't know. I really don't. I really don't. I'll be bummed if she doesn't. I know the rumors are that she's not in it, but
Oh,
but at the same time, I feel like that kind of made sense at the same time because Paxton's not around anymore. I just I don't know.
I'd hope she's in it.
So do I. So I love Twister. Did you ever been to Universal?
Oh, sure. Dozens of times.
Did you do the
Excuse me, not dozens of times. Probably like 4 or 5 years in a row from like 97 to 2001 or 2.
did you do the
I went.
Twister experience / ride thing?
I did Twister. I did King Kong. I
Wasn't that
did.
crazy, the Twister one? I mean, it actually looks like a tornado's coming at you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was great. King Kong will always be the most jaw dropping ride I'd ever experienced in my life. But Twister was great. The last time I went was 2010 or 11, and everything that I grew up loving was all gone. Back to the Future was gone. King Kong was gone. Jaws was gone. Everything that I wanted to experience was gone. I didn't realize it though because I wasn't privy to the internet and researching that kind of stuff yet in 2000 whatever.
Didn't you say you never got the chance to ride Jaws?
I've never said that. I wrote it a bunch.
Who was it? I was talking to somebody that never got the chance to ride it. I can't remember who it was. Good. So you did get to experience it. Okay. So I'm assuming it was the same as when I rode it. You get on the bus. I remember the dude that had like the fake shotgun, and you go into like the boathouse, and like I remember the shark came up to the side of the boat at one point and shit. And I just remember being like, dude, fuck, this is terrifying. I know it's a mechanical shark, but that is fucking terrifying.
The Jaws was great, but like I said, to me, the King Kong ride took my breath away.
I didn't do that one. I don't know what it was.
Holy shit! Listen, I'm not asking. I'm telling you to look this up after this. It's almost like Godzilla. Like you're in New York. You're in one of those railway cars, but it's like a sky train, like those sky trains. You're going through the city. Everything is burning on fire. There's heat. And you're going through the city. Buildings are collapsed. They made a city that like you're in the around these skyscrapers. The ride culminates with you getting to King Kong. It was the biggest animatronic I think I'd ever seen in my life. And he slams your car. He growls at you. His face is probably 25 feet tall. His head is that big. It was horrifying. I think it was the most expensive ride Universal had ever done at that point. And eventually it caught fire. And then they didn't, when that happened, they just shut it down and demolished it. It was the most breathtaking thing I'd ever experienced in my life. I shat my pants every time. As great as Jaws was, King Kong was truly terrifying. But it was incredible because the whole ride was anxiety inducing.
Do you remember when they got rid of it?
It had to have been 99, 2000. Maybe
That's
2000, 2001 might have been the last year. So I know it was the 90s when I went.
I went in 03. So it probably wasn't there.
Yeah, it was gone by then. It had, dude, oh, Jesus. I get anxiety thinking about it. It was incredible.
Well, you would have loved Kings Island back in the day because when it was Paramount Kings Island, and that's how it was when I was growing up. And Kings Island was 10 minutes away from my house my entire life, so I had a gold pass every year. And I still like Kings Island. I haven't been in a couple years, but it's just not the same anymore that it's not Paramount. You know, you had the Top Gun ride where like and while you're in line, it's playing the theme song, and like you had Face Off, and you had the Tomb Raider ride. And I don't know if you're ever big into the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies.
I played the games. I never watched the movie, but I played Tomb Raider 1, 2. I loved it when it came out. It was huge on PlayStation. I played it all the time.
You'd probably know more than me then because I only ever watched her 2 movies. But I remember the Tomb Raider ride was like, it was just this big like cave entrance to get in the line, and you like, and the line is entirely inside, and it takes, and like, it's just like catacombs almost. It's like from the movies, like it's all decorated out like it. And once you finally get into this big warehouse, it's this big, like, I don't even know, I can't remember what the mechanism was called, but it seats like 60 people, and everybody sits on it, and they put the overhead thing over you, and then it goes dark, and it's on like a pendulum essentially, and it just raises you up, and you start to spin. And they had the big like goddess or whatever with all the arms on the wall right there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then,
I'd have to.
it was crazy. You should watch a video of it. I didn't know it went upside down. I was still young and I was terrified of that. My grandma lied to me, so it freaked me out. But I remember like at one point it like turns you and you're going face down to the ground, and there's like, it's boiling hot lava. It's like, and you're feeling the heat and water spraying on your face. And then it would turn you up, and you start going up toward the ceiling, and there'd be like stalagmite and shit that like it looked like you were about to crash into, and like it was wild. And I remember it being such a cool ride. And then Paramount sold to Cedar Fair, and everything that was themed for a Paramount movie was
gone.
They would repaint stuff, rename it, and yeah, it was just.
I'll have to look into that, see if there's any video footage of it. No, I'd never, obviously, I don't think I could, I never even heard of that place, or Paramount having a theme park back then. So,
oh, dude, it was, yeah. You gotta go back and just like, when you get a chance, go back and look at some videos from Paramount's Kings Island, because I know you're a big fan of Paramount. And I always found it crazy they didn't have a Friday the 13th thing. There was nothing Friday the 13th, which was weird to me. But yeah, that was back when the park was in its heyday. I mean, that's because everybody thinks of Cedar Point when it comes to Ohio. Like that's the theme park in Ohio. But Kings Island is next up, and Kings Island is a pretty damn big theme park.
Yeah,
like, there's a lot of great rides there. But yeah, when it was Paramount, it was way better. I don't know. Now it's just kind of. Yeah.
I went to Universal, Disney, whatever the Florida one is. I'm assuming that's Land, not World. Whatever.
It is Land, yeah.
I did that 2 or 3 times. I don't remember being in love with Disneyland. I remember a little bit from that, and I went to SeaWorld. We went to SeaWorld a lot. And I feel like we went to SeaWorld as a bonus to whatever vacation we were going to. Like if we were going to Universal Florida, so we did a day at SeaWorld. But are SeaWorlds even still a thing? I feel like with all
Yeah, yeah.
the blackfish and
Oh,
all that, that they would kind of start getting less
there's
attraction there.
protesters outside every day. They have protesters outside of SeaWorld every day. I went one time in Florida after my mom moved there, and I had seen blackfish, and I was like, I don't know, this is kind of fucked up. Like, this doesn't feel right. But I mean, I went, and like, it's cool, I guess. But I do side with. I mean, you're never gonna find me at the front of a picket line, protesting. But I do side with the people that feel like this is inhumane. Like these big ass creatures, they don't want to be in tanks like this. Like, you know, I don't know. I mean, you remember Harambe? Everybody knows about Harambe. That happened here in Cincinnati. That was huge news. I remember it, and like, that was really sad because some dumbass parent wasn't paying attention to their kid, and their kid got into the enclosure. So let's kill the gorilla. Like I don't know, man.
R.I.P. Harambe.
Yeah,
Died.
no, dude.
Died. Harambe was killed in cold blood.
It's it's one of the only things that's ever come out of the state that made like national news. Like, yeah, it
I
was a
remember
big
that.
deal.
That was what, 2016, 15 or
Yeah,
16.
yeah, right around then.
R.I.P. Harambe.
It was 15, I think, because it might have been 16. I saw a post the other day that was like 8 years ago today or 9 years ago today. We lost a king. Yeah, yeah, dude.
Harambe was
It
just
was,
protecting his turf, dude.
but he didn't even hurt the kid. You know what I mean? He
Well,
didn't even hurt him.
no, he didn't hurt the kid. It was definitely scary, probably when he grabbed the kid by the leg and he ran. He just ran from one place to the other, dragging him. But that mom, oh god, she can't. I wouldn't think she'd be able to show her face for a while in public. She'd just get berated, like, "Oh, Mother of the Year, right here," you
Yeah.
know.
How do you take your eyes off your toddler at the zoo, bro?
Like you'd think you'd have your kid, like you wouldn't let go of your kid,
Yeah,
like
because
even
someone
like
could
not
just snatch
physically
your
let
kid
go of them.
up. Like,
Just hell no, hell no.
yeah, forget about falling into the enclosure. Someone could just snatch your kid. Like, it's so weird. Like, what were you doing to where you just didn't pay attention to your 4-year-old? I don't
Hmm.
know, man. Yeah, so R.I.P. Harambe. I remember one of the hashtags that was going around was "Dicks out for Harambe."
Dicks out for Harambe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that. And my favorite was like killed in cold blood. Like,
yeah, yeah. Well, it was just crazy to me that they killed him like a week or two later. Like, what? It's over and done with now. Like the kid
oh,
didn't get
they
hurt. Like
they didn't kill the gorilla
they
in the
they did not kill him that day. No, no.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was almost like they had to like they they wanted to because there was outrage. There was outrage. Like the gorilla showed that it was aggressive when it grabbed the kid and like dragged him. Like you
It's a
guys need to protect
gorilla.
it. Yeah, yeah.
What? Oh my god.
No, if it was aggressive, it would have come over there and just started beating the shit out of the kid. Like it didn't do that. I mean, but again,
Oh god.
SeaWorld started that conversation where it's like, dude, these are big ass wild animals and you're putting them in enclosed spaces. If anything happens, it's not their fault, it's your fault. Like,
That kid is basically Corey Cunningham now.
oh, yeah, yeah,
He's the
ostracized.
t-
They probably went into
he's the
fucking
town
witness
pariah.
protection. Yeah,
He may
they probably
have.
went into, yeah. I mean, dude, I'm telling you, this entire city was like, it was a big deal, man. It was a big deal. So yeah, the only other big thing I think to come out of Cincinnati was Charles Manson was born here. Um, so that's cool, I guess. Um, all right, so I wanted to talk to you about a specific topic because I made a video on this a couple weeks ago, and then I revisited some of the comments because I thought it was kind of funny. You saw all the headlines. Everybody saw it. A bunch of movies this year were underperforming. So, people that were trying to get clicks on social media were like, oh, movie theaters are in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And I made a video that was like, no, they're not. This is stupid. Like, stop worrying about it. It's just a bunch of movies that nobody gives a shit about. Like, as more movies come out that people actually care about, you'll start to see different results. And I would get, I'll never forget one specific comment said, this is going to age like milk in a hot car. And I couldn't wait. I took a screenshot of it. I was like, okay. And then we had a couple movies. What was it? Bad Boys, which I don't really care about, but it did really well. And then that Pixar movie that just came out, Inside Out 2, made like 300 million. worldwide on its opening weekend, and second
Wow.
biggest animated opening of all time. And I was just like, oh yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Like I've it's almost like people didn't really give a shit about, I don't know, Imaginary, Night Swim, movies like it. Dude, the movies that came out this year so far, there've been a couple good ones. Don't get me wrong, but even the good ones have been like lower budget indie stuff. Like Late Night with the Devil was a really good movie, but it's like an indie movie. Yeah, that's never going to be huge. And then I was just looking ahead and I was like, there's so many big movies coming out this year for people to be like, oh, box off, theaters are in trouble before we even get to the big movies. I thought was kind of crazy because here come the big movies and they're making money. I don't know. People try to compare this to the physical media debate. They're not the same. I do not think both are the same, personally. I
No,
do think
that's
physical
apples
media
and
is.
it's apples and pomegranates.
Yeah.
You know, it's very different. Physical media is not the same market it was 10 years ago, but to say no, if you're it's one of those things, if you're in it, you're in it. If you're not, you're not with physical media. You know, it's a whole different there's
Would
a debate for it, but it's a much different type of debate.
would you say physical media has evolved from 20 years ago where it was just people bought stuff so they could watch it, or they when you had the option to rent, you people rented a lot and whatnot, and that's why it was a lot more popular then. And now with streaming, just physical media as itself, like just when it comes to the casual viewer, they just don't care as much to own the actual physical copy. Now physical
Sure.
media has shifted more toward the collector.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the boomer generation still. I mean, I have a video store that stays open and operating because um you know, there's an older generation that doesn't really do streaming. And it's funny, I'll ask the guy. It's actually the perfect storm because I was talking to the owner of the rental store the last time I was in there. I should have videoed it. I could have asked him if I could interview him, but his family owns the complex where the store is. So, you know, that probably helps him on rent and stuff like that. But I'll say when I go in there, you know, I work a shift schedule to where I'm off during the week sometimes, and I'll go there at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday, and nobody's there, you know. And I'll ask him, I was like, well, how is business? He goes, you should be here on Friday night. I was like, really? Why? He goes, it's just a bunch of old people renting tapes or renting DVDs or Blu-rays. And I was like, really? He goes, oh yeah. Like, he goes, come here real quick. And I forgot what release it was, whatever new release was out at the time. Like, he had a bunch of them sold, whatever the new titles were. So, there's that. DVD is still the highest selling property.
Why is that? Because
Which
it's more affordable.
I think it's a number of reasons. Yes, it's more affordable, and I don't think a lot of people are are convinced by the avenue of higher definition. Um, I don't think it's something that the average person is that focused on. I always say that getting into higher definition or 4K is like it's one of those things where you don't miss what you don't know. So if you don't really get into getting the super high televisions, the OLEDs, the QLEDs, getting into sound systems where you can experience Dolby Atmos, or getting into the picture quality, the higher definition movies, you don't care because you're not fixated on it. It's one of those things where if you actually get into it and you fixate on it, then you start to get anal about it. Then you start to get to where it's just like, oh man, I can imagine watching blank on DVD. Like, I want to see it in whatever the pixelation is of 4K. I forget the numbers, but like, it's one of those things where I think the average person doesn't get, they don't look into it, they don't get into it, so they're not concerned about that. DVD is fine to them. So I think it's that's another thing, and the price of DVD is just, you can't beat it. It's a cheaper disc to manufacture. Blu-ray and 4K discs are a lot more expensive to make. I think 4K disc. I think Blu-ray discs are actually the least profitable disc. I think 4K is actually more profitable from the companies to do more so than Blu-ray at this point. But it's a number of reasons. I'm not exactly an expert, but I follow the numbers. There, you can look at the sales charts for stuff. Month over month, DVD is constantly the number one seller.
I
So
remember specifically for me when Blu-rays really became a thing, like in the early to mid 2000s. I remember the first Blu-ray I ever got, just like looking at the actual disc itself, and I was like, I'll never forget when I bought it. The guy like ringing me out, he was like, "Yeah, the thing about these that are really cool is they're really hard to scratch. They're very hard to scratch. Whereas DVDs, yeah, I know you remember whether it was PlayStation or whatever game you were playing or DVDs, you used to go to places and buy a bar of that goo that would like fix quote
Hmm.
unquote
That buff
scratches.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and this was one of the selling points at the beginning with Blu-ray is you don't really have to worry about that. They're really hard to scratch. And I remember just like looking at the first Blu-ray I ever owned was the Anchor Bay Halloween from '06 or '07 when that came out. And I remember just looking at it and I was like, this is thick. Like
Hmm.
it felt thicker, it felt heavier. And I tested it. I was running my fingernail across it and everything, and I was like, dude, nothing. Whereas you remember an old PlayStation game, if you had medium sized nails and you drug it across there, you're going to scratch it. Like 100%, you're going to scratch it. So it makes sense when you say that, they don't really make a lot of money on those because I'm sure the manufacturing in and of itself is probably a lot more expensive than printing on a DVD disc. I mean, that's, like, I don't know. But yeah, I
What
guess, like you said,
what were you asking me about earlier though? I don't know if you got me off topic or I got off topic, but you were talking about something before where you wanted my opinion on it, and we got to talking
just
about.
well, just the movie theater debate as a whole. I feel like we have this conversation every year, we as a society, ever since COVID started, where it's like, oh, they're done, they're over with, and then we get a couple really big movies come out, and then everyone stops talking about it, and
Oh,
then
movie theaters, right?
yeah, and it's like I just feel like it's been proven at this point, like beyond a reasonable doubt. We went through a time where the world was like shut down for like 6 months, like
Right.
everywhere, and they still didn't die. They came back. So it's just like, do you agree? Like, do you honestly? Because like some people are of the mind that are like, no, they're going to die. I literally, someone replied on that video I made and was like, movie theaters are shuttering all over the place, and I replied and said, yeah, and I'm a dolphin because I mean, I just feel like it's fear mongering. I just don't think that shit's ever gonna die. Like I really
I
don't.
I think it's I think it's the internet, and anybody can say whatever stupid opinion they have. No, it's a silly argument. I mean, um, right after COVID, there was an argument to be had, I think, because nobody really knew what the fuck was happening. And I think movie theaters have done a really good job adapting and becoming, you know, almost like department stores now. Because, like, I wonder how much money they made on those Saw buckets or those ghost face. But I'm
The
serious.
Scream ones, yeah, the Scream ones, yeah.
I wonder how much money they made on all that shit. It's actually brilliant because even though some of I bought stuff to some movies that I didn't go see in theaters, but I wanted to own like the Godzilla bucket or the Garfield bucket. Like
I'm still mad you haven't
that's
seen that movie.
I'll watch it. I bought it on 4K.
Okay.
So well, we could talk
But
about
yeah,
that if you want.
no, 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 it's fine. You haven't seen it yet, so we
No,
can't
no,
talk about it yet.
you talking about Godzilla X Kong?
Yeah,
Yeah, I watched it.
you did watch it.
Yes, maybe 3 days ago. I got the 4K of it and I watched it.
Oh, what would you think? I figured you would have texted me after you watched it and at least been like,
I
"Hey, I
was
watched."
I'm sorry. I think I was it was just one of those things where I was watching it on I was on the treadmill watching it and then blah blah blah. I was doing a bunch of shit. Um I didn't hate it. I understand that it feels like it's wanting to be this just fun um Showa era movie. Um it's fine. It's just it's not my favorite. I still like Godzilla 14 and Kong Skull Island more, but I think I will take Godzilla X Kong over King of the Monsters. Not a fan of that one, which is weird because I say weird. I'm weird because that seems to be one of the fan favorites. I'm not a fan of that, and I think I'd actually take Godzilla X Kong over Godzilla versus Kong because
I agree with that.
at least this one revels in the ridiculousness of it a little bit more.
Didn't you find though, now having watched it, that the worry about it being a stupid buddy cop thing was totally overblown? Like because it really was. They didn't even team up till the very end, and when they do, it's like
Right.
begrudgingly. Like it's not even like a, oh hey buddy. It's like a, I'm gonna beat your ass, and then it's like,
Yeah.
no, follow me real quick, and yeah, it just kind of happened by happenstance.
Yeah, I'm glad I appreciate that it doesn't even try to be like, okay, we got to have some serious nature to this. Like it just revels in being over the top. So I appreciate that. I hated that Godzilla evil Brachiosaurus thing. I just thought
Well, no,
I thought it just looked like shit. I mean, come on, guys. How much millions we put in? We can get a little bit more creative. Skull Kong was fantastic. Um, it was the perfect foe to King Kong. It was more of like this, almost like Vegeta-esque to Kong's Goku. Kind of an old school reference for all you Dragon Ball Z people out there.
oh, I
But
watched
yeah,
it.
the Godzilla villain, I hated it. Did not like it at all. I just thought it looked like literally nobody had an idea of what to do. But I liked it more than Godzilla versus King Kong and more than King of the Monsters. It's just, man, like I'm not trying to be the purist type, but like looking back, it makes me like 14 even more because we're dealing with fucking ancient gods monsters. It should be scary as a fucking heart attack. And that's why I like looking back at 14, I say to myself, well, even though the Muto, whatever they're called, are pretty, they look kind of look similar to monsters we've seen in the older movies, like from Godzilla 2000, for instance. The monster has a similar kind of tripod esque head look. Not exactly the same, but it definitely reminds me of Godzilla 2000. But my point is, the seriousness of those monsters in the city tearing up shit. That's my bread and butter of Godzilla.
But
That's what
that's why it
I love the
surprises me
most.
that you're not a fan of King of the Monsters because Ghidorah brings that with him everywhere he goes. It's apocalyptic. Cities get leveled. I mean,
It
yeah.
I wanna like King of the Monsters, I really do. I just find it hard for me to enjoy it where Godzilla is bitch made the entire movie.
You believe me, I had issue with that the first time I saw it too. Now at the end, yeah, he is the king of the monsters and he wins the fight, but it's like, bro, every fight in the movie up to that point he had lost. And I was like, it just kind of pissed me off. Like
I yeah.
I don't
I
they
didn't
nerf him on purpose. They nerf him here in
yeah.
America. They just totally do.
And that's fine, but for me, I didn't enjoy it that much. But if I'm the kinda guy, I think the series is at its best when Godzilla is a bad guy. Uh, that like the original 54 Gojira or Godzilla 55 cut, take your pick. To me, that's about as classic as you can get. Um, Godzilla 84 or the Godzilla 85 Corman edition is great. I mean, I like some of the battle movies too. Like Biolante is probably for a long time I would tell you that was my favorite because for once Godzilla had a foe that to me was so fucking evil. Biolante was scary as shit. That's still one of my favorite versus movies. Um, but no, my point is, I look, I'm saying I like Godzilla X Kong, like because I think it reveled in being a Showa era movie, and that's fine. And the suplex was funny when that happened; it was pretty funny. And I like Kong in the movie. I thought Kong got to, I thought Kong got to flex pretty good, and uh, I like Kong better in this. I just thought it was like to me, this is like if they would have done this instead of Godzilla versus King Kong in what was it, 2020, I probably would have been an even bigger fan of it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. My ranking of those American ones are probably the opposite of everybody else's. Like it's probably literally the opposite. Everybody's number one would be my last one. But I'm gonna watch it again. I had a good time with it.
Would you think did you hate the Infinity Gauntlet when you saw how they used it in the movie? Because I know like you hated it in the trailer.
It works better watching the movie. Like I said, it revels in this insanity.
It makes sense
The
too.
way they
I
just
mean,
yeah,
when they found out about Mecha Godzilla, they're like, well, fuck, if anything ever happened like this again, we should probably have some tech too.
right.
So Yeah, it made sense.
It's
And
just interesting to me that this is what what Americans want from the series.
yeah, and it is clearly audiences, at least the
You
people who
know,
show up for these movies.
like believe me, I never feel like just trying to sound different or be somebody that I can't stand people that try to say stuff just to make it sound like they have an interesting opinion. To me, that's so I get annoyed by shit like that. You can just tell when somebody's trying to have an interesting opinion, right? Yeah, I can read it from a mile away, or I can tell from a mile away. But seeing -1 last year, I was blown away by how when I watch that movie, I say to myself, what is wrong with us as a country to where that is not what an American studio thinks we don't why do they think we don't want that? I mean, to me, that was literally the greatest Godzilla film. I've seen every single one. I'm embarrassed to say I have seen every single Godzilla film, every shitty one from the show, all of them. To me, that was I think that was probably the greatest Godzilla film ever made.
I mean, if you want, like, I know it's more rhetorical, but the way I guess I would answer that if somebody posed that question to me is like, why don't we do that with Godzilla here in America? I think it's a cultural thing. At the end of the day, I really really do. I think it's just because the Japanese people in Godzilla's inception, they just look at Godzilla differently. It's a metaphor, it's symbolism, and it's all a direct result of what we did to Japan. And so, I think that we as Americans, we've never viewed Godzilla that way culturally. At least there are people in America that have, like yourself, that are big into the old era of Godzilla and all those movies. Like you have an affinity for that, and a lot of people do. But I think culturally, these studios just don't think we as a people do because what Godzilla has meant to Japan, he's never meant that to us
No,
on a whole.
that's almost like their Tom Cruise. Like they have theme parks with gigantic
Yeah,
Godzilla. Like that's their mascot. Like I get that. And I understand. I'm just talking about the subject matter, really, right? Like, why would a studio not think? It's just it bums me out. I'm not saying I don't like I said, Godzilla versus Kong was super fun, but I feel like we kind of did that with 14, right? Because it was about family and loss and reconnecting, and they tiptoed with it, right? Like a lot of people will tell you the Bryan Cranston stuff was the best part of
it's the
14.
best stuff of the movie. Yeah, the fact that he's gone 30 minutes in is a travesty. Yeah.
Yeah. He had just finished Breaking Bad too, so he was the king of the world at that point.
Oh, him being in the trailers made everybody think, oh, he's going to be like the
It's a
guy
Bryan
in this
Cranston film.
movie. Yeah. Nope. No. His moment in that movie where he says, you have no idea what's coming. It's going to send us back to the stone. Something is coming and it's going to send us back to the Stone Age. I remember seeing that in the trailer and being like, dude, this is going to be awesome. Like, oh,
Yeah, it's just
I think
I
that they
like
just got. I think these studios just think that we want the fun, and as much as I did have fun with Godzilla and Kong, I would much prefer a movie like -1. Like absolutely, give me an end of the world apocalyptic type of movie
yeah.
for sure.
And the reason I say I wish we could, because somebody will say, well, Christian, what's the big deal? -1 came to theaters. My issue, the reason I say I wish America would do something like that is because I know that there is a large section of people, and I'm not judging because I used to be like this, that will flat out refuse to watch a movie with subtitles. Flat out
Oh
refuse.
yeah, yep.
And I'm not judging, but I would implore you people to get over that. Get over it.
Also because in a movie like that, I've heard the argument like, well, if I'm reading what they're saying, it's taking my eyes off of the action that's happening on screen. But a lot of times, specifically in -1, they're not saying anything when there's action happening on screen. So like, you're not
It's
distracted from the destruction.
Well, I also think it's a skill you kind of learn as well.
It's
I think
multitasking for sure. Yeah.
I think you get really good at being able to do that to where it's really not even a thing you think about after a while. I mean,
No,
I'm to the
it didn't
point now
bother
where
me at all.
I'm at a point now where I don't know what happened, but one time we just kind of put subtitles on the TV, just watching a show, like a regular Netflix show, whatever. Me and Sydney are at the point where we have OCD about it. We have to have the subtitles on. So like that's like I live with subtitles on everything I watch. Also because sometimes I can't understand people. Like I have a hard time understanding British people. Sydney makes fun of me. I really have a hard time. So if it's anything with any kind
Much
of
love to all you guys over in the UK listening.
yeah, I need subtitles. And I
Bottle
get it. Some
hog.
people can't understand me half the time. You probably need subtitles when I talk too.
Yeah, Baldy Jack would say you had that Cajun accent.
I do.
Sometimes you lean into it.
I do. When I get mad, it comes out. I try to curtail it. Excuse me. So yeah, it was fine. It was fine. I enjoyed Godzilla X. I hate the name still. I sound like a jackass saying it. I enjoyed Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire.
It's pronounced Godzilla and Kong. It is Godzilla and Kong is what it's called. And people are still shitting on John Campea because he refers to it as Godzilla X Kong. And people are like, stop saying that. It's Godzilla and Kong. But I get it. Like reading it literally, it looks like an X, but it's I know what you mean. Yeah, I just call it Godzilla and Kong.
It's weird because I feel like they're making these movies more King Kong movies though instead of Godzilla movies.
They are. He's kind of endeared America. It's weird. It's like they love Kong. Dude, Godzilla had like 11 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Well, like I said, I thought Kong was better. I liked him more in this movie.
What'd you think about the pink Godzilla upgrade? Because I kind of dug that shit.
Like I said, all that stuff works in the context. If they would have tried to have played some sort of serious nature to it, especially with the human, because all the human stuff was silly. I forget the actor's name, but the black guy that's like trying to tag along with all of them. He was funniest.
And Dan Stevens was good in it too, as like the vet. Like he was goofy as shit too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what movie you're in 20 minutes in when they're pulling Kong's tooth. Like you know. Like
that's a good example. Yeah. Yeah, that was The Guest.
Yep.
So at first I didn't know. I was telling Sydney, I was like, is that The Guest? And she was like, wait till he takes his glasses off. When we see those eyes, we'll know. And sure enough, when he finally did, we're like, yep, that's him.
Yep. And Mothra. It was cool to see Mothra again.
Mothra's a fucking bitch, dude.
I know.
I fucking hate Mothra.
Something in this movie.
Get that fucking moth. Get that butterfly out of here. You got these beautiful array of animals you can choose from, and we picked the stupid fucking fly. Get out of here.
Well, yeah, but you know why? It's because her and Godzilla are like that, like a team.
It's
almost.
Stupid. Get the fuck out of here.
She's weak as shit. Yeah, like in Monsters, she got wrecked real quick.
It's like Metapod from Pokemon. Like, fuck off. Get out of here. I hate Mothra.
Into Butterfree. Yeah, Butterfree.
Yeah, whatever. You know, get out of here. I hate Mothra.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you didn't hate it. I mean, you know,
I didn't need it on 4K though. I can tell you that right now. Like, it's not a movie that I needed on Blu-ray would have been perfectly fine. And then they had a cool steelbook, this beautiful purple steelbook, but of course, you know, I didn't pre-order. It's funny, you know, Physical Media is dead. Well, guess what? Like, none of those steelbooks showed up at stores because I think the online pre-sale for it was so high that I don't know if anybody I saw actually had theirs in stores. It might have, but mine sure as fuck didn't. No steelbook for that movie there.
I feel like that's the case nowadays with steelbooks. Exclusive steelbooks, like they fly off the shelves. They can't keep them.
Yeah, there's definitely a market for steelbooks. I feel like I kind of got into steelbooks just because
to sell them. Do you think people ever buy them, pick them up real quick just to sell them at higher prices?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Especially during the Best Buy era, I'm sure that was happening too. You know, but the thing about Walmart,
sell it for 60, yeah.
Yeah, the thing about Walmart is, I think they're okay about restocking steelbooks. I mean, when they first did their craze early this year, a lot of the steelbooks they were doing were restocked stuff that sold out like crazy, like the Super Mario Brothers movie. They restocked that, and
did you ever see
Oppenheimer? I liked it. Besides Seth Rogen being Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong needs a deep voice. What the fuck are we doing? Like, what? Yeah. Oh god. Other than that, it was fun. It's funny. It's like if kids would have if the kids today would have saw the Super Mario movie I saw when I was a kid, they wouldn't sleep they wouldn't sleep for days.
No,
You
no,
know?
no.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked that pretty good. Um,
We're going to be busy here over the next couple months. I'm assuming you're going to be at the theater just probably as often as I am. You got Maxine in 2 weeks. You got Long Legs in 3 weeks. You got Alien in August.
I I'm
Uh,
I'm more excited for Alien than Maxine at this point. I really am in the my gears are going for Alien. I'm pretty sure Maxine's probably going to be the best out of the three. I think it's a safe assumption, although you probably shouldn't assume. But I think it's going to be the best. But I think they might actually pull it off with Alien. I really think they might because
they got the right guy for it. I mean,
they got the right guy for it, and I don't know, just something about this one feels like they're going to get it right. And some can argue that there's only two good Alien movies. I would argue that there's three great Alien movies. But I think they may pull
okay.
this one off. Well, that's not
Hold
true
on.
because I like Prometheus a lot. I hate Covenant.
You just answered the question for me because I would say Prometheus is great. I would put that in the great category. I fucking love that movie.
Well, let me put it to you like this. Let me put it to you like this. I think 1, 2, and 3 are all 5-star movies. It's funny because like I don't know what it is. You would think today part 3 would. I think there's fans. Don't get me wrong. I think 3 is the A24, the most A20. I think 3 is the most A24 movie that's not an A24 movie of all time. I mean, it literally is a disaster piece in my opinion. I love 3. Take your pick. The director's cut, the theatrical cut. I prefer the director's cut. But yeah, it's weird. I understand the rationale. People are like, you did all this goodwill in 2, you know, what Cameron's so good at, you know, then to go and make this third one where they suck the soul out of the hope that people had after 2. You know, they all this hard fought battle. But to me, you know, I don't know. It's beautiful. I think if John Carpenter would have made an Alien movie, it would have been like people probably say, I think it'd be like the first one. No, I think John would have made one like 3 personally. But I love 3 to death. Prometheus to me is one of the most breathtaking movies to visually watch, and Covenant can kiss my ass.
What about Resurrection?
Resurrection's fine. I think it's fun. That Resurrection is Godzilla X Kong. They don't make any bones about we're gonna throw shit at the wall. We're gonna have a basketball court in this movie. Like that is the tooth pull in King Kong, giving him a root canal. Like that's the equivalent to me of just being ridiculous. So Resurrection's fine. And I think you have to judge a movie based on like it's. I always say it's weird when people say I don't like Freddy versus Jason isn't even scary. Like it's that argument, right? Well, I got news for you, pal. I don't think they were trying to make it scary, you know.
No.
Now, if you don't like it, you don't like it. I would never try to change anybody's mind. But my point is, I think with Resurrection, you can't judge it on not being like the first movie. They're clearly not doing that. You know, it's like this is what happens with these scary movie franchises, man. Like they start off being really scary, and then they say, "Well, we've explored this now. Like, are people going to be scared if we do the same thing again? We have to do something different." I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but how many times does this happen? It happens with everything. Damn near everything.
If you included the AVP movies with everything else in Alien, so you say just include those for argument's sake, what's the weakest Alien movie?
Honestly, I can sit down and enjoy excuse me. I can sit down and watch AVP or Requiem, but I think everybody's idea of what those movies were going to be is better than what came out. So I would say either Alien vs. Predator or Requiem. Like as much as I don't like Covenant, to say it's not a well-crafted movie, I think I'd be lying to myself. So it's probably Alien vs. Predator or Requiem. I'd have to revisit them to take which one. But I think if you, whatever your idea of that movie was when you first heard about it as a kid, I'd be willing to bet it's better than what they did. To make Predators good, like get the fuck out of here. Look at Predators and tell me they're good guys. Like get the fuck out of here.
No, yeah,
what?
Yeah.
Like it should have been. It should. I don't know. Well, I feel like those things are so simple to do, but they have to go out of their way to fuck it up
Yeah,
sometimes.
they've always got to have an anti-hero in these versus movies, and I kind of hate that because when you're pitting two villains against each other, neither one has to be an anti-hero. They can both just be villains. Like that's totally fine. I don't need either one to have a redeemable side. Like no, but yeah, Requiem sucks. That movie sucks farts like out of a butt. It's just a bad movie. Whereas like AVP, is it technically a good movie? No, but it's fun. I do have I can have a fun time watching AVP, but Requiem, I don't even have fun. Like everything that was fun about AVP, even though it was stupid, it's just not even there in Requiem. And to finally give us the Pred Alien and only have it be at the very end, and they clearly didn't have the budget to really show it in its full glory, so they used terrible lighting and really weird framing of shots to try to still conceal the Pred Alien a lot. And I was like, this is fucking stupid. Like, why even do it? And then even if you include those movies with Predator, I'd say the worst Predator movie is The Predator. Shane Black's The Predator. I think that movie sucks ass.
I watched that once. I don't remember much, but yeah, I remember. I don't remember being very much enthralled with it. You know, the most interesting thing about the Predator series to me is I feel like it's weird, but I feel like the absolute best look the Predator ever had was the first movie, and after
Probably.
that, I just remember there's a moment in Predator, the first Predator, where Arnie has his final bout with this thing, and there's a shot where the Predator backslaps Arnold, pow, and he opens his arms up like that, and you see his face. I would kill myself immediately when he like. It's the design was so good, and he was slimy. The jungle setting was perfect for that creature,
I'd
dude.
say the
That
next
dude, Predator. I need to watch that again. Predator is like I feel like that's one of those movies that was like it slipped through the time not the time warps. What am I trying to say? That movie slipped
space
over
time
from
continuum.
it slipped over from a parallel dimension. Like it's such a
Yeah, the space
weird
time
thing.
continuum. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because you think about it. I mean, Arnie definitely took risks that worked, where Stallone did some bad risks and did stuff that didn't work for him. But for Arnie to do a movie that's, pretty much a horror film is insane because it's a fucking action movie, but that's a scary motherfucker. So I really love Predator, and I love Predator 2. That is definitely a great sequel. It's more of a horror fans movie for sure. Great with Danny Glover in there, but no, Predator is so goddamn good. I need to
I,
rewatch that
I
again. It's
think
been a while.
the next best look for the Predator after the first movie was probably Predators. I really like the looks of them in that movie too.
I need to watch that one again too.
That one's good. I like that one. I don't care what anybody says. I like that one. But again, it has Topher Grace as a villain, and
It's
just like when
over.
he
Yeah.
played Venom, it's like impossible to see that dude as a villain.
Nice. Yeah.
He's built like me. Like it's just like, come on, dude.
When Prey came out on 4K, me and Sydney revisited that. I like Prey.
I do too.
I almost feel like I need to get. I feel like Christian, you have to dislike some stuff about this movie. You can't just like it. And I'll watch it and I'll be like, I like it. Like I
Yeah,
love
well,
the lush for it. Like they brought the scenery back to what it should be. Now the kind of like skull design of the character, I appreciate it. It's unique, it's different, but it would have been nice to just go back to that original look. But you know what?
yeah.
This movie had its identity, and good on them. That was a good movie. I don't know why they called it Prey. I mean, I get the context of it, but I guess Predator has such bad will with the name because they've done so.
Yeah.
That might, what? As funny, as silly as that sounds, that could be
I,
it.
I mean, dude, you're looking at the last 20 years for Predator movies. I mean, look at it. Predators didn't make a lot of money, so it didn't restart the franchise like they wanted it to. AVP Requiem absolutely tanked and everybody hated it. The Predator tanked and everybody hated it. So yeah, it's almost like you were like, let's keep Predator just out of the title. Let's just not do that. Yeah, no, people's issue with Prey was really weird because it was simply just that, like, oh, so you're telling me this like indigenous woman from way back in the day without modern tech and stuff like that, she took down a predator, and it's like, I mean, it's not like she went toe to toe like they fist fought. Like she used cunning. She set like booby traps. She used her brain to beat him. It wasn't like brawn. Like yeah, I can totally buy that. Like I don't know. I just don't know why that was a problem.
I I'm glad I live in an existence where I don't even see those kinds of arguments. That's just so stupid to me.
Yep. No, everybody called her a Mary Sue. That was everybody that didn't like the movie was like, oh, because it's stupid fucking Mary Sue that takes down a predator. I'm like, all right, Ripley did it and Alien, and think about every final girl in horror ever that bests the killer. Like, I don't know. It's just like
I'm so glad I don't
whatever.
see any of that shit. I really am. My head would spin.
If you well, Christian too, even to that argument, does Arnold beat the Predator in Predator with brute strength? No, he uses cunning as well. He uses his brain. Like, yes, Arnold's huge, but like he doesn't use his physicality at the end of the day to really. That's not the difference maker. The difference maker is his brain. He outsmarts the thing. Like, he uses his surroundings to his advantage. And I don't know. Like she did the same thing. So I just don't understand why that was a problem. But again, yeah, you are lucky you don't see it, but because it'll just make your brain hurt. Because you're a rational person. So when you watch these movies, you're not thinking that. You're just like, okay, that's cool. That's
It's
cool.
it's so funny because apparently there I hate to bring this movie up again. Apparently there was a massive divide with men, and I missed all of it. I don't know where this stuff goes on, but I don't see any of it. And it might have it was either you or like, dude, there's a bunch of people that say this is the most anti-male movie ever made. And I'm like, apparently there was these arguments about it, but like, dude, I don't see any of it. I
I
just
just
live a blissful
remember
existence.
I just remember
I'm
when the trailer came out and it was accompanied with the poster and you had that creepy guy smiling and it just said men across his face.
right.
And
Oh, I love the art. I need Second Sight to do a 4K box set of that. Please, Second Sight. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, from what you told me, you watched the movie and you said the message was not really that at all, but people just took from what they initially saw in the
Well,
promotion and they were like, they're just labeling men as the enemy. I have no interest.
let me put it to you like this. I never, and if I review a movie that I take something away from, I always approach it as this is what I got out of it, not this is what the movie's about. Because who the fuck am I to say? But what I got out of Men was a woman who was in a bad relationship that Baldy Jack's gonna edit that. Got out of a
I
bad
know. I made a
relationship.
face.
I know, I saw it. The guy killed that scene where he jumps off and kills himself, and he looks at her while he does it was so fucking haunting. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, guys. The whole movie to me is a metaphor of her seeing the the absolute ugliest out of the opposite sex in her reality, and it was morphing into a nightmarish
Of a
because of
lived
what she went through.
experience. Yeah.
And then at the very end, when like the guy he morphs back from this blob-esque thing and's on the couch, and it's been a few years since I've seen it because it's a heavy film to watch. And she was like, "What do you want from me?" And he says something just like, "Your love," because as simple as that is, she knows she can't give that to him. She makes like a like a sarcastic like laugh, like all of this I've gone through inside my mind was just something that is that simple to him that he wants from me. So I thought it was a brilliant movie. If people don't like it or they perceive it like it's all men are bad, that's fine. You can think that. I would never try to argue with you. But for me, I thought it was very profound about how, because suicide is a heavy thing, of course, like understatement of the year, right? But to see it from the other side in a way of what it did to her and how it warped her mind into this nightmare of seeing how I just thought it was a brilliant movie. And if people want to argue with what I perceive from the film, you can. I'm not going to argue back. I mean, so you would be wasting your time. But But please feel free to share your thoughts on that. But that's what I got out of it. And for me, I was like, here's a movie that is not going to make me feel good. Because sometimes I don't want to feel good from a movie. I have a pretty good life, you know. I do the right stuff. I try to take care of myself. So my mental health is pretty good, right? So I enjoy taking the dark spells in movies sometimes. Some people need movies as medicine. I get medicine from other things sometimes. So I don't mind watching a movie where, you know, Nick, you got to take a bath after you're done. Excuse me. Sometimes I like that. And that's what Men was for me. He's probably going to edit that too.
I didn't make a face that time though, so
no, but I got to be
No,
careful. A little bastard.
but no, it's kind of like I would phrase it this way: like if you had a traumatic experience on a roller coaster, like where you almost died, or
Going on a
something
bridge would be traumatic. Like
Yeah.
going on an incline on anything could trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Mhm.
yeah. I just man, what a movie! What a movie! It really captivated me. I really loved it.
Yeah, it's a study on trauma in a different way. The embodiment of her trauma, yes, happens to be a man, but that doesn't. I mean, that's I just feel like it just seems
Men,
like
not a
nowadays.
yeah.
Yeah, it just I don't know. It just seems like nowadays we've always got to find something. Like there's always When's the last time we all
Well,
agreed on a movie?
Well, is it? You know, here's the thing though. I don't know if it's just nowadays or it's the fact that everybody can see everybody else's opinion. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
like I wouldn't be
No, no.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if in the '80s there were people that were like, God, why is Steven Spielberg making a movie with Whoopi Goldberg called Color? Like, what the fuck's he doing? Just make this shit probably always. By the way, I love Color Purple. I love. But my point is, like,
Great movie, yeah.
this shit probably always existed. But the fact is, there's the internet now for everybody to give their opinion, to see, and we can see it. You know,
Yeah.
this
That's
is why
probably what it
this
really
is I don't know if I do this intentionally, but like, dude, like. I put my opinion on the internet, and we all have that right to, but I don't seek to look for the opposite of what I think and stuff or whatever. If something comes across to me that I see it, that's one thing. And I'm not saying you do, Nick. I'm just saying, like, it's weird when I hear about this stuff and I'm like, oh, was there like this like thing with men where like there was articles written about how it's this, man hating, what this shit was going on. I didn't even know. Like, so
well,
I don't know.
From my experience personally, I don't seek that out. You have admitted it. I'm a lightning rod for it. It finds me. I don't know why. It's just it has always found me. It's like because it's not good for my mental health. Years ago I decided like I'm not going to argue with people on Twitter that disagree with me about X, Y, or Z. And I got a comment on a video. It was my Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 like video essay I did like a year ago that has done really well. Like it just keeps getting views. It's I think 20,000 or so now. It's one of those videos that you get a couple comments every week still on it. And I got 2 comments on it this week, and both of them were like, I didn't even argue with the person. One of them said, well, and it wasn't an argument, but he was just like, he called me a contrarian and was like what you said earlier, like someone just trying to be different. And I replied and I was like, no, I've liked this movie since the day it came out in 2009. And I have videos on my channel to prove that of when I was a teenager that I loved this movie the first time I saw it. Like I don't go out of my way. I don't know why I'm a lightning rod for it. I think part of it is that I get very animated about my opinions.
Here's the thing though, Nick. I don't think that's really you're not the only person that I get a lot of this shit. I do. Especially on videos if they just completely disagree with my review on like the physical media people, dude. If they, I don't talk about it that much, but like, dude, when Aliens came out, James Cameron did some adjustments on the picture of that. There's people that can't stand this kind of shit, and I enjoyed it, dude. I got destroyed. You don't care about film. You don't know what the fuck you're talking. Like, this is what I'm like. If you like something that there's a consensus that doesn't, or vice versa, But my thing is this, my video is my opinion. So I'm not going to argue back at all. If you disagree, that's fine. But I'm not going to comment back and even argue because my video is my opinion. I've said what I've needed to say. You know, so that's the approach I take. That's my opinion. That's my argument for argument's sake is that video. So I don't need, you know.
I'm sure you saw. You know how I know that firsthand. I'm a Last Jedi fan. And I can tell, so I finally did a Star Wars video because people had been asking for it, and it didn't totally tank on my channel, which I was surprised by. It didn't do like what an average upload does, but it did fine. So I was like, whatever, people wanted me to do it, but that was one of those movies I didn't realize in 2017 that 2017 what that was going to be. I went and saw it opening night, and I was just like, oh, dude, I really liked that. And it was the next day when I started to see it on social media of like the divide of like,
and you can't, it's Star Wars, so you can't avoid hearing about that.
And it was the same way with Halloween. I didn't know the response to Ends. I saw Ends the very first showing on preview night at my local theater, and I got out and I just posted my review on Twitter, and I did a quick out of the theater reaction for YouTube. And by the time I got home, I mean, it was like, holy shit. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize this was going to be like that divisive. And if people's like opinion is like, they think you're trying to be contrarian, like, no, not at all. If anything, I would be delegitimizing myself if I would just do an out of the theater reaction. These are my thoughts. And then I saw the backlash to it. So then I backtracked. That's when there's a problem. When you're like, yeah, well, on second thought, I just actually wasn't a big fan of it. No, I honestly think that might piss people off, that like I say what I say and I stick to it. And I'm like, no, there's literally no argument you can make that's going to make me change how I felt about a movie or a show or whatever it might be. And I just feel like some people get caught in the weeds in that, honestly, especially with the internet nowadays. They really want to try to change people's minds. I really think in their minds, they think like, I have to educate this person because they're wrong. And it's like, no, it's just my opinion. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got nothing to add to that.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, before we cut it off, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would want to discuss quickly or whatever? Anything top of mind?
Well, just topical stuff. I saw the article about Crystal Lake where they're firing people. They were over budget. It's just sad, but I really think it's cursed. Like, I really think Friday the 13th is fucking cursed. I didn't realize till a few years ago that they produced all kinds of shit for the show that was going to come out in 2017. Like, they had looks for Jason, masks. Yep. There was I was like, what the hell? So what a mess. What a mess. I don't know how to, I'm a little ambivalent on whether I'm happy or sad about it though, because I still don't think it's a great idea to do a show about Pamela. As much as I love the first movie, I'm not too sure that it's going to do well.
It's not going to whet the appetite of the Friday fan. It's just not going to do it.
I know.
If this is your big return for Jason after 15 years, don't be surprised when the fans don't give a shit.
What? That's even. Like,
it's not Jason.
And they have the rights. Fuller said they got the rights to all of it. So why are you doing a Pamela show?
I'm telling you, I think they're trying to build out a universe. They're trying to build a new franchise or new series out of this franchise. And it's like starting from the ground up, basically. We're going to milk this cow for 25 years. And it's like, we're waiting for Jason. No hate to you, Pamela, but
yeah. No, I get it. I love Pamela. I love the first movie, but I understand that it's clearly not what people think of when they hear Friday the 13th.
It's less than 10% of the series. Like, it's Friday the 13th. Yeah, I I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I read that article too. And honestly, the thing I took away from that was probably the most shocking. I wasn't surprised about shitty pay and problems with executives and writers and all that. I wasn't surprised about all that. That's just Hollywood. But what I was surprised about, it is, by the way, to anybody, that is just Hollywood. We just don't hear about it enough. So when stuff like this comes to light, don't be surprised.
Right.
But what did surprise me and bother me a little bit was that people that were working on it said they got the feeling that A24 didn't seem like they even wanted to do this. And it's like, I don't know if you read that line in it where
Yeah, I
multiple
did.
people, yeah, it was just like, why do it then?
Just,
Like, just for the money? Like, was it just like, oh, cool, we got the rights. Now let's make some money off of it? Like,
I just imagine there's so much bullshit that I wonder if A24 were excited and once they got into whatever, I'm not defending A24, but I'm just speculating. There's probably a laundry list of bullshit people they have to go through. Everything's got to be approved with this or that. And it's probably a massive committee of shit. And I don't know if that's how that company operates.
no, well,
And
existing IP isn't their thing. So to get an existing IP like
it
this and
may
all the
not
hoops
be
you have to
what
jump
they,
through,
oh
yeah.
God. And I don't know. My gut's telling me I don't think A24 are, I don't even want to say, there's not a bad guy in this. It's all business. But like,
Yes.
there's some, I just look at the way A24 operates and the movies they do and the way they create. Let the directors, it's such a novel concept, right? Let the directors write and direct their fucking movies. Like what a novel concept. I wonder if they're saying, ooh, this ain't for us. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this fucking Halloween show comes out before Friday the 13th at this point. If they're doing one, I think they are.
Yeah, I am so good on that. I don't need that. Nobody's asking for that.
No, it's stupid.
Well,
Like,
Miramax
I'll,
didn't
I'll
want
tell
the
you,
rights to lapse.
I'll tell you what, Nick. I've talked about this on my channel, but I haven't talked to you about this. I'm gonna eat my words. 100%. I'm gonna eat my words. I really didn't think I was gonna like Chucky, but I forced myself
No,
to watch it, and I gotta be honest. It's kind of fun.
I'm not surprised, I guess. I would say though, I've heard you talk a little bit about it, and I know that you I do have to call you out though, Christian. Don't act like you're a fan of Seed. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this bullshit. Everybody saw you go on your tirade.
Of course, and I've always said, um, of course I was trying to be I was trying to be funny. Like
No, I know, but
it
you
was
seemed
shtick.
mad that night. Like you did.
Well, I still look at that episode as one of the funniest episodes.
No, it was.
Here's what I'll say about Seed. Legitimately, all bullshit aside, completely all bullshit aside, I don't love that movie, but I will say it is. I see. I see what Don was doing. He was making a complete satire.
Mhm.
It's breaking the fourth wall. It's all that. It's so over the top that I see why people are just like, "What?" Like, there's breaking the fourth wall where Freddy looks at the camera and says, "Great graphics" or whatever. Like, but to make a movie like Seed, literally, it's beyond breaking the fourth wall. I don't even know what you call it. So I get it. I get it, and I like the show more than I like Seed.
Was your least favorite season 2?
Sure. But
Yeah,
I'm
I would
2 episodes into 3, and it's fucking wild. I didn't like so here's the thing, I watched the debut of Chucky, and I was just like, "Really? This is it? I don't like this kid. Kid's stupid." Devin Saw was kinda cool, but really? But as I it's just one of those things where I kept watching, and I was like, "Okay, they gotta jump into this giant pit of, like, needles? Oh, this reminds me of Saw. What are they looking for? Chucky's in it?" Like, so it's just one of those things where I kept watching, and I was like, "Okay." And I made myself a promise a few years ago. If I have an opinion on something and I change it, or if I have an opinion where I'm over the top and I really don't feel that way, not necessarily down the road, I force myself to go on the internet and just stick my tail between my legs and I'm honest about it. Because if you do that, you control your narrative as opposed to Christian's a fucking hypocrite. So, and I think here's the reality, people. And this is not, I'm not even talking about Seed of Chucky at this point. I'm talking about movies like The Changeling. I'm talking about movies like, there's a lot of examples where I adapt and I change. And the older I get, I perceive movies differently. I look at things from a different perspective because my perspectives have changed, or I've gotten older and I can appreciate a different type of filmmaking, and my opinion can change. And I figured, Christian, you need to control your narrative and you be the one that says, hey guys, guess what? I kind of started watching Chucky, and this is why I bought the seasons on DVD or Blu-ray, because I want to have them now. So I'm going to eat my words. And if you do that, I feel the audience will thank you for that as opposed to criticize you. Because if you take your own wind out of yourself, you can't lose. So that's what I decided to do a few years ago. And this has happened a number of times, not just Chucky. A number of times this has happened where I said, I'm gonna eat my own words, people. Here's why. Boom.
There's nothing wrong with that. I was actually I was giving you a hard time, but yeah, no, I respect that. There's
I still don't like Cult, by the way. Don't like Cult.
Never forget a couple years ago when it started, I was the one that I was one of those people that was banging the drum with season 1. I said, Christian, it's actually fine. You should watch it. You should watch
You
it.
were.
Like,
I remember that. I do remember that.
So but I respected your choice not to. And coming around to it now, there's nothing wrong with that because you didn't come around to it. You just didn't watch it yet. You were like, I just don't have interest in it. So
I did this same thing with today, Godzilla X Kong. Godzilla and Kong, whatever. I hated the trailer passionately. Passionately didn't like the trailer. And I watched it. I told you, I was like, I promise I'll watch it. I will watch it. And so I did. I got the 4K the other week, and it might even just been last week I got it. I don't think it's even been out that long. I think it just came out. So
it just came out.
I literally just saw it. It was probably maybe 4 days ago I watched it. And I might have even said, I'll talk about it on the show because I don't feel like doing a review for it. So yeah, I have no problem eating my words. It's one of those things. I tell myself sometimes, Christian, curtail your opinion on stuff if it's brash, but at the same time, that's how I feel in the moment.
I think people want that. People want authenticity, whether they agree or disagree with it. Be authentic.
Well, right. But my thing is, I worry if I just start to sound like a jackass if I'm that way, and then I say to myself, well, as long as you don't avoid what you've said in the past, that I think to me that works. So there's a lot of examples. You could go to my channel and probably hear me say something about a movie 10 years ago that if you hear me talk to me about it today, it could be different. There's probably a lot of examples.
You lived through it with 2018. You've said it many times. You were over the moon with that movie. And then as time went on, you were like,
And what's funny about that is last year I did re-reviews of it and I actually had a good time with it. And this year, here's the thing, Nick, I have avoided Halloween movies besides the Blumhouse ones, which I did watch last year. I have avoided Halloween movies for about 4 years. Like just watching them for pure enjoyment. I think we did watches for 5. We did watches for them for the show, but for me to sit down, no cameras on me or whatever, has probably been a number of at least 3 or 4 years whenever the 4Ks came out. And even so, that was to review the 4Ks. I'm watching picture quality. I'm taking notes. Okay, what was the aspect ratio for the DVD of Halloween H2O? What was the aspect ratio for All right, what's okay, we got the original aspect ratio. Great, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm doing all that kind of shit, right? But for me to actually sit down and watch some of the Halloween movies, like 5, 4, and even like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, because I think I did a re-review of Halloween, and I never did 2. Like I think I'm going to do that this year. Just take a few of them and actually revisit them and say, okay, guys, like, you know what? It has been a while. I want to do this. I don't even care that it's necessarily that it's Halloween. I mean, it's always fun to talk about Halloween, but like, I really am. I think I'm actually excited to be like, okay, guys, in 2024, I watched Halloween 5. this is what I got out of it. This is how I'm perceiving this movie today. After seeing a number of foreign films, after seeing this, this is what I picked up this time. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
You should be. You should be. And I think that it's always good to go back and kind of get rid of distraction like that and go back and watch these movies. I actually really enjoy doing that too. When I watch in October, I haven't watched every Halloween movie in October in years. I try to watch most of them throughout the month of October just once, and that's the only time of year I watch them now. Because when I was a teenager, I was wearing these things out. I was watching them all the fucking time. So now it's like I try to watch them all in the month of October, but I haven't the last couple of years. I've watched most of them, but I don't mess. I don't edit YouTube videos. I don't do anything like that while I'm watching them. Like sometimes I'll turn on a show. I'm editing a video. I'm hardly paying attention. It's more like background noise, but when I watch the Halloween movies in October, I watch them. I mean, no distractions. I watch them because I feel like I always get something new out of it. So I would always implore you to do that. But to your previous point about, eating your words and controlling your narrative, believe me, I get it. I've lived that with Jason X on my channel, and I've called myself out. And I've been like, I did a video years ago where I railed on Jason X, and now years later. But I felt like that was more pressure. I feel like when I was like late teens, early 20s, like the general sentiment was that this movie sucked. So like I look back on it and I was like, yeah, that movie does kind of suck. And then as I got older, I was like, no, it doesn't. I loved this when I was a kid. I'm not going to let the internet dictate what I think about this movie. So yeah, it's just I totally get that. There's no shame in that, dude. Like I would honestly feel like we would be incredibly boring as a species if we could not adapt and grow. Like if we just stayed the same, our taste stayed the same, everything stayed the same. Just like, what's the point, dude? Like, I mean, okay, so I've always loved this movie. I've always hated this movie. I'm never gonna go back and rewatch this movie. There are very few movies in my life that I have watched that I've gone, never again, never again. I'll never watch that movie again. Because you never know where your taste could be 5 years down the line, and what you might get out of it.
Yep, life experience can change so much about your perspective. And my kryptonite with bad movies sometimes is if I find out the behind the scenes was a disaster from the business side and the people making it got screwed, I have a bad habit of becoming a big defender for it. Like Return of the Living Dead, Necropolis, and Rave to the Grave. I cracked every layer on the behind the scenes of those. And it's so hard for me to I can't talk bad about them.
No, I know. I was going to give you credit there, though. You don't talk bad about them, but you will openly admit they're not good movies. But
here's why.
Yes, and that's fine. That's fine to do. There's no shame in that.
I found my passion with that. Like, as much as I love doing physical media, like that kind of stuff, those are two of my favorite videos I'd ever done. Because, man, I did all.
Didn't the Necropolis one, or was it Necropolis or Rave to the Grave that blew up?
What's funny, and I'll make this quick because I really don't like talking about myself, but I did this Nick, it was as simple as this. There's a DVD for Return of the Living Dead Part 2. The soundtrack's different on it. Like the way the movie came out when it was on VHS, it sounded one way.
No, that's the one you just had that blew up, right?
It was insane. Yeah.
50K or whatever now.
It's in the 40s.
Okay, but I'm talking about a couple years ago. You did one for either Necropolis or Rave to the Grave, and I remember that one blew up.
Yeah, those did good. Those were because those were evergreen videos. But I think which one it was no, I remember what it was. I decided I was going to do I'm fascinated with Living Dead in general, like all those movies, and I was going to do the bargain Benjamins, Children.
Yes, yeah.
Children of the Living Dead.
And didn't it get like 25,000 or some shit?
No, I don't think it was that much at the time, and it's still really good. I just remember this was maybe 3 years ago. Yeah. And so when I got the comma on a video, which I'm still blessed when that happens, I never take it for granted. Like, wow, this video did pretty good. If I get that comma, I'm always like, wow. But I remember that I woke up and it had maybe 1,800, and I was like, Jesus, what the fuck happened? And then it kept doing good. And
Yeah.
then right after that, I started doing the research on the Return Necropolis and Rape to the Grave, and those were pretty successful. But Nick, I was so in love making those videos. I really didn't even give a fuck if they were unlisted. Like I
Yeah.
enjoyed watching them because
Mhm.
I am so passionate about that kind of. That's where I get excited about that when there's something about one of those Living Dead movies that I can investigate or I can look into. I'm so passionate about that. I almost wish I could make my channel just
Christian,
about that. I'm obsessed with all that Living Dead stuff.
that begs the question. Do you think that's why those videos do well? Because the audience is seeing the authenticity and the excitement in what you're talking about. And maybe that is what
I think
tunes
that
people in.
I think you're right, and I also think, look, I'm fairly I'd say I'm 40% agnostic, but there are times where I say to myself, somebody's rewarding me out there. Because here's the reality. A lot of us that make videos, we're honest with ourselves, but I also think we know when a video is like, hey, this is pretty good. You make a video, you say, I think this is pretty good. And then you throw
Yeah.
it out there, and then, you got your viewers, and they're loyal, and you love your viewers, and they'll watch something. But every now and again,
One
like
just takes
something
off.
just goes off.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good video, but I think I've done other videos that are better, even better. But I put more time into. Now, don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. I put a lot of time. As simple as that silly idea was, guys, because the rumor was, Nick, there was a lawsuit with the music. And I said, this two and two ain't adding up with this. So I did a bunch of investigating on this, and I made this video. And you're right, I am very passionate. I love Living Dead. That is my Halloween, which is funny because I need to get some. Well, I got Return of Living Dead tatted on me, but like you get me just if there's something to find out. Like I found out, so Bill Heinzman was the zombie in the beginning of Living Dead, the one that comes after Barbara. Somebody told me he did a movie called Flesh Eater. I was like, what? I didn't know about this. He directed what happened was they were doing what was going on in the late 80s. Something happened. Oh, they were putting out Night of the Living Dead in color on VHS. And Bill, George, John Russo, none of them were going to make a penny off of it because they didn't copyright the fucking movies like idiots. Sorry, guys, but come on. So Bill was like, what if I directed it? What if I made a zombie film and I'm the star? Because I think, I've got the notoriety as the world's most famous zombie. And so he made this movie Flesh Eater, and my audience actually told me about it because of another Living Dead video. And then I made a video, and that video did good for me. But dude, if you watch that, I think you're right. If you watch those videos, I am like a kid in a candy shop because I'm truly in love with those Living Dead films. That's my Halloween. Or it's funny because I love Elm Street. That's my blood. But I really think my truest passion of anything is Living Dead movies. I literally am obsessed with them to the grain. So yeah, and I'm kind of tapping the well out with some of that stuff though, but I'm always looking.
Yeah,
There's
you
always
you
something
you
out
always
there that
think,
I haven't found.
believe me, you always think that. Yeah, I mean, you like generally with people when you're a content creator, I've thought the same thing, and then you get a new idea. Uh, and that happened to me last week. I was like, bro, I can't remember what it was. I stumbled across something. There was somebody talking shit about one of the Halloween movies. I don't remember, and I was like, this is absurd. Like this write up is absurd. And then I was like,
Excuse me.
what if I reacted to like, what if I read some of these like terrible reviews and just like gave my opinion on them? And I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll do it. And my
Those
audience,
those are
it's
fun.
really resonated with
Yeah.
people. They really like it, and it generates a lot of conversation. So that's cool. But no, but I think it's true, Christian, because some of the videos that I've been most passionate about, that I put the most time into, and something that I have a lot of knowledge on, have been some of my biggest ones. The Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 video essay, like I said, it has like 20,000 views now, and the Halloween Returns video I did a couple months ago, that's over 10,000 now, and it's like it shows like you're talking about something that you're really passionate about, you're really knowledgeable about, and you put a lot of time into it. I edited those things for hours. Most of the time for me, if I record like one of these reacting to reviews, I did one for The Exorcist tonight. So as soon as we're done, because someone requested it. So as soon as we're done tonight, I'm going to finish editing that and also put that on my Patreon. Editing that is going to take me about an hour. I'm going to have to trim the video clips and whatnot, splice them together. I'll have to get the photos of every review so I can put it on screen as I'm reading it, and I'll intersperse some video clips. That'll take me about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. But when I did the Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 video essay, it probably took me 3 or 4 hours. And Halloween Returns, same thing. And how it is. When you do an edit like that, as soon as you're done, you're like, fuck. Like it's like this big ass exhale because you're like, holy shit. And you just realize like, dude, I just lost my night. Like,
Yeah.
like
But you
my
know
night's.
what? And I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry. I really am.
No,
But
I,
you got,
I was, yeah, you're good.
I look at videos as songs. Everything I put out is a new song in a way. And some songs you have more passion for, whether it's the topic or the style of video. And sometimes people will ask me about YouTube videos, or they have channels and they'll say, I did this video I was really passionate about, or I did this video I thought it was going to do good. Like this release just came out. Why didn't my video do good? And I'll tell them, look, it's one of those things where, sometimes you cast your net and you don't bring something back. Sometimes you'll get lucky, sometimes you won't. But look at it like this. And this is kind of off topic, but I'll tell, if you didn't make that video and you didn't get those X views, well, you wouldn't have got those views at all. There's something about YouTube that I'll notice where people want to get they're shooting for the viral video.
A viral hit. Yep.
And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. It's important to talk about stuff that is sometimes topical, or who am I to really give you the blueprint on how to do YouTube? But I look at it as, look at every video as an opportunity to get one new viewer. And if you keep plugging away like that, they will come, but it's important to do stuff that like, man, I got a video. I can't wait to drop it. It's already done. And I think it's the best one I've ever done. And I don't care if it does good or not, but man, I'm so proud of it.
Well,
And I
here's the
love,
thing, Christian. To what you're talking about, I just wanted to say really quick. That Star Wars video I did, whatever, that's not my niche. It's not my thing. But it got me 12 subscribers, which is not a nothing burger when it comes to, one, I'm just a moderate channel. Two, that is not at all my content that I post on my channel regularly. That's 12 people that
I know
decided to sign up to watch my stuff.
I'm excited to get you to not say that kind of stuff anymore, though.
What?
That's not my normal content.
I know I know what you mean, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, for argument's sake, like it isn't. It's not,
yeah, but
because
I know
the algorithm has decided for me, and the algorithm will do that. The algorithm will boost stuff that you quote unquote normally do, and doesn't really boost stuff that you don't normally do. That's just the way the algorithm works a lot of times on YouTube, and it is what it is. But
it's funny. I've had the opposite effect. I found that sometimes when I take the risk is when I've had the opposite.
It's not that I'm not risk averse at all. It's that I'm worried. I wouldn't even say worried. I just, how it is to make something that you're passionate about and nobody cares. Nobody cares. And then you're just like, man, I poured a lot into that. I really cared about that. And so I was worried about this Star Wars one, but I kept getting comments about it. So I was like, I'll do it. I'm really passionate. It was a 20 some odd minute long video because I'm really passionate about Star Wars. I like Star Wars a lot. And it did okay. It has like 700 views, which is okay for me. I do something Halloween. Yeah, it's gonna get a comma on it. Sure, whatever. But I was surprised that broke 500. Because I just didn't see it as that. Like I just not that I wasn't passionate, not that I didn't care, not that I didn't want to do it. All of those things I did. I do care. And so I listen to my audience, and I've been really trying to do that more because we talked about this a couple months ago on the podcast of branching out, and like I've been taking suggestions when people have like I wasn't gonna react to bad reviews of The Exorcist, but someone that watches regularly was like,
Yeah.
you should do this, and I was like, I'm gonna do it.
Didn't we do a podcast on that too?
We read yes, but it was what was it?
We picked different movies. I
Yes,
remember
we
you were
did.
asking me. That was
Which
fun.
I can't remember if it was good movies that we read bad reviews to or bad movies that we read bad reviews
It
to.
was
I can't
bad. It was
remember.
bad movie reviews. I remember that because
Yes, yeah,
the
Christopher
Leprechaun
Cronin was on
Origins.
it. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
those were fun. Those were fun.
And the thing about it too is it creates conversation. I love that. Like you and I both know as a content creator, when you look at a video, don't look at the view number. Look at like my last two reading Halloween reviews, over 100 comments on both. That is what I like to see because that's like it makes people talk. They get pissed off when they see some of these reviews and they're like, how could somebody say that? And I'm like, imagine how I feel when I'm reading them. Like, because I'm reading them live, they're seeing my reaction as I'm reading them. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, some of this stuff is just like, but that's the thing. We talked about this all full circle, Christian. It's the internet nowadays. Everything's at everybody's fingertips. And
Yep.
they can say whatever the fuck they want. And, you know, but it gives, I don't know. It's cool.
It's
I'm having
comment
fun.
sections are the equivalent to people's thoughts nowadays in their head.
Yeah.
It's not really. They still don't really feel like they're saying it because they're not verbally saying it. They're typing it. It's like it's the same thing.
Well, I'll leave you with this. We can wrap, but I got a comment yesterday on that Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 video from last year, and it said it was someone I'd never seen before, and it said, "This video right here is what gets you as do not recommend, puts you in do not recommend to me." And I replied to it, and I said, "Do you promise?" Question mark. That's all I said. Like I was just like, so YouTube recommended it to you because you're clearly watching like Halloween stuff, and this video did well and you took the time to let me know, hey, because this was recommended to me and I don't like this movie, this is going to get you on my do not recommend. I was just like, okay, I I don't know, man. Like, what do you say to that? Like,
Thanks for watching.
yeah, I've said that before to people too. Like, well, you gave me a view, so appreciate it. But I don't know how you do it, Christian. I was thinking about it the other day, man. With how much your channel has grown, I don't know how you keep up with comments because I struggle.
There's a point where you can't. I had to tell myself this is what we were talking about earlier. I had to tell myself, and I think my audience understands. My video is my comment. My video is my opinion on something. So if I get comments that I can't respond to, and it's gotten out of control, I do my best to look through, and if there's something that I do find I need to try to give an answer to, especially if it's something pertaining to information about something, I do my best. But I can't. I just can't anymore. My video is my opinion. That is what I have to say. So therefore, I don't need to respond to everything. That's the way I've.
Not a bad way to look at it. Really,
I don't
it's
like,
not.
especially, and I'm sure I get a lot of. I know I get a lot of negative comments. Everybody does. Not everybody's gonna like you, but
I do like how YouTube
they,
filters them to the bottom of your video, though.
Yeah.
Like it filters the bad ones to the bottom,
yeah,
so you don't see them till like the end. You're like going through, you're replying to everything, and then you see the shitty ones at the end. You're like, ah, fuck.
it's part of it, dude. I mean,
I just throw them heart. I just throw
I've
them
had
heart now.
I had to learn how to adapt to it in the last year, but you know, it just is what it is, man. I'm very blessed. You know, I'm very blessed, and you know, if that's all I have to do is deal with mean comments, I got nothing to complain about.
Oh no, yeah, mean comments should not be a deterrent to anybody wanting to be a content creator. That's just the internet nowadays. You're going to get that. It's also it's probably not even 5% of the feedback you get when you're a content creator on here. So like it's just like it's every now and then you see it and you're like, but I'm just saying because like I'll upload a video and I might get 50, 60, 70 comments in a day and I'm like, "Ooh, I feel like inundated by this shit." I can't imagine what yours is like.
Like I said, you have to just tell yourself, my video is what I have to say. So I appreciate if somebody comments. I appreciate that, but I can't. I don't have time,
No, no,
especially
no.
if I want to keep up the pace I do. So it just is what it is.
I
You know.
remember Cody Leach told me that he has like a day of the week where he tries to go through his comments. Like he has a dedicated day. And I'm like, I couldn't do that. That sounds like a boring ass day.
Yeah.
Like just reading and typing. All right. Well, shit. We covered a lot of topics here, guys. This was a free flowing episode because the last few episodes had been topic driven and been more structured. And today was going to be a little more just let's catch up. Let's talk about shit. Christian's old, so he's falling apart over there. So yeah, guys, throw a like on this for us. It helps. Comment down below. Let us know what you thought about some of these topics we discussed. I always love going through the comments, especially the people that are like commenting as they're watching, as they're going through like a new comment. It's cool. It shows me that you're listening to the whole thing, and that's we don't care if you only tune in for 5 minutes or for 2 hours, but it's cool when you tune in for 2 hours.
That's
'Cause
right.
we spend
And
we
you'd be
s- yeah.
surprised, man. I'll see comments on stuff that's like from the 2 hour mark. I'm like, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the podcast means a lot to a lot of people, and I just want to say, guys, everybody had been asking me to make merch. I made some merch. It is available on my Teespring. I have the link on the Uneeda Horror Podcast Instagram. It is in the bio. I made some merch. I do plan on. I was probably going to
Excuse
make
me.
another design tonight, which is I'm going to make a design, a T-shirt of the photo when Christian and I met at the hotel. I was going to put that on a shirt with like the logo and something, blah blah blah. So, guys, check it out. I've got it priced to where the profit margin is like non-existent. It's not about that. It's simply just about you guys getting to get some merch for a podcast that we know shit thousands of you like, which is crazy to think about. Even though
Hmm.
we've gone to my channel now, we still do 15 to 2,000 plus on every episode, which is really cool. So you guys are still watching. So, and Christian got all those previous episodes onto podcast platforms. So if you guys you use those, they're on there. I
They're
checked
on there
today.
now. Yeah.
Um,
It might
and
take it may take a little bit longer for iTunes or Apple Podcast than
it's on Apple.
Spotify.
It's on
Yeah.
Apple.
But if you see it on Spotify, but you use Apple, or if it's been announced that it's on there and it's not on Apple, wait another day. I think it takes just a little bit longer to process over there. I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
No,
Spotify
I
is
think you're
that
right.
fast.
But yeah, guys, and if you can't find it, message me or message Christian, and
No, don't
we'll send
message
you
me.
all your.
Message him. Don't
Yeah,
message me.
he hasn't opened my Instagram messages in like a week. I think I
I,
sent him a
I
reel.
I gave up with
Yeah,
those, man. That's another
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
I gave
yeah,
up again, guys. My story. If I know, like I followed Dawn of the Discs. I know all the. It's funny. They had a Return of Living Dead steelbook get announced like
yeah.
a
That's
couple weeks
all.
ago. Oh, dude, I put in my story. I was like, I saw it, guys. Everybody's
I know.
excited. I'm happy. Like I get it. I really. It's like yes, guys. Yeah, more Return of
Yeah.
Living Dead. But I promise, I saw it, people.
Well, I get it. I
They
get
mean well.
having
They mean well. But like
yeah,
I saw it,
no, I
guys.
know, and I get it. I get you struggling because I struggle, and I don't get as many Instagram messages as you, and I struggle to get back to people. So if you guys are listening to this, and I've gone like a day before without replying to you, that's because I do get a decent amount. So I can only imagine what Christian gets. So it's nothing personal. But yeah, check out the merch. Thanks for listening to the pod, guys, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. So unless you got anything else, Christian,
Thank you for watching.
peace out, y'all.